Hi everyone, Materim here with another battle report. This one is going to be my last prep game for the Southern Assault GT before I go next week. We will have one more game night before then, but I think we're going to do more narrative stuff, so this is kind of my last chance to get things going. And because I have done a grudge match against one of arguably the best Ogre players in our region, I decided I should at least have one match against Ogres to kind of get an idea of what I have to deal with before we go. So tonight, Michael, who has been absent our company for a while, managed to make it over, and he is using my Ogre army to play against my Saurian Ancients list that I am taking to Southern Assault. Because we are doing a grudge match in turn 1, we're essentially copying the turn 1 deployment, which is just normal deployment, with the secure target objectives. You can see on the board here, the two targets are those two white glass beads that are in the middle of the table. One of them is on the wall, the other one's just kind of out there in the middle of everything. So let's go ahead and get into deployment, starting with the Ogres, and you guys can see what I get to face here. Sorry for a slightly blurry picture, but starting on the left, we have a Rock-a-Rock. Then there is a single saber-toothed tiger. Then there is a unit of 7 bruisers with full command. In that unit of 7 bruisers is a shaman who has is a wizard master with 4 spells to pyromancy and a great weapon. Also, there is my Khan, Battle Standard Bearer, also with a great weapon. He has the Mammoth Hide Cloak and the Charm of Cursed Iron. Next to that is a unit of 9 Tribesmen with full command and the War Standard, and they don't have any characters in them. Next is a unit of 3 Yetis with no upgrades. Then another saber-toothed tiger, and then a unit of mercenary veterans with full command and iron fists. They have the dragon skin banner and thunderous charge and bodyguard. Hanging out in them is my great Khan, who is the great Khan, who is the general. He has fencer's swords, glittering cuirass, the Talisman of Greater Shielding, and the Rotten Jaw big name. So I decided to kind of bunch up because I don't really know what he's going to be doing here. So starting on the left in the back, I have my unit of 32 Saurian warriors with the Banner of Speed. They have full command, spear, shield, and the Serpent Warrior upgrade. Hanging out with them is my firstborn veteran, Battle Standard Bearer with hand weapon and shield. He also has the Totem of Mioxidil, which gives that whole unit hatred. In front of that is one of my 2 spearbacks. Next to the spear unit is my Stygiasaur with champion upgrade. Next to that is my 20 Temple Guard with full command. Inside them is my Quaddlelord, who is obviously a Wizard Master to Divination. He has the Jade Staff, Ancient Knowledge, and Unconquerable Will. Directly in front of that is a unit of 8 Skink Hunters with Blowpipes. Next to the Temple Guard unit is my Taurosaur with the Engine of the Ancients upgrade. Next to that is 5 Caimans with full command. In front of those guys is the second spearback. And then all the way on the right side is my unit of 15 Skink Braves with bows. So yeah, I really am not 100% sure how to handle this army. The Rock-a-Rock's going to be a big problem. I'm hoping just to use his frenzy to keep him away from me, even if I have to sacrifice a few things to him to make that happen. Other than that, I just have to try and shoot and thin down some of the units. I know the mercenary veteran unit is just absolutely killy. If I can keep that thing thinned down and just keep it away from me, I'll be happy. And I don't really want to stick my neck out too far because if I can kind of get him to try and make long charges and miss them, then maybe things will go easier for me. But that's just kind of the aim. If I see an opening, I'm going to just try and ram the spears down the bruisers' throats because I can pretty much kill them before they get to swing, I think, unless they get me on the charge. So that's kind of my plan going into it. Let's see how well that works. So the Ogre's got turn 1, which was not a good thing. And pretty much as expected, he comes rocketing forward. He's sending the saber-toothed cat out to get ready to do some chaffing, which is okay because I think he pulled him out a little early. If I can kill him, he'll prevent that'll prevent him from stopping me from getting my units where I need to get on counter charges and stuff. On this end, he decides to hold the other tiger in reserve a little bit and hides him behind the wall. And over here, the Rock is obviously circling around and getting ready to come for my flank. And that thing is a problem. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to deal with it. My best guess is to try and magic it off the board, but I don't know how well that's going to work. So during magic, he lands a pyroclastic flow on my spearback. I decide to let it go. He only gets 1 wound through, which is pretty awesome. But then the resulting fireball he targets at the skink hunters and manages to kill 2 of them. They don't panic because the general and the BSB are literally right behind them. So nothing else really going on because he doesn't have a whole lot of shooting. If any, I don't think he has any. My turn 1, I decide to go over here, and the reason for this is that the bruisers are still in range of the spearback, so I can start planking them off, and I'm presenting a nice side to the Rock. I'm hoping either he'll charge me and fail, or maybe fail the frenzy check and force to charge me. And the way he's got to line up with his overrun, it's going to basically run him right in front of the spear brick. And if I can get like into the side of that thing with all these spear guys, I might be able to handle it. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for there. On this side, I don't really move much, if any. I may have moved the other spear back up just centimeters just to get within range. But I don't want to give him any easy charges, and I want to take the time to eliminate those chaff bricks and maybe even the Yetis before anything else comes to mix it up with me. I decide to go ahead, figuring that I don't want to waste my actual shooting on the guy behind the wall. I unerring strike him and he dies. And then I shoot, and it looks like I get 1 wound off on the bruisers with the spearback. Over here, I think it's the skinks that end up killing this saber. And then I end up getting a wound, I think just 1 wound on the Yetis with the other spearback. So, Ogre's turn 2, he tries to charge the mercenary vets into my skink brick, and I stand and shoot. I get 1 wound through, and he fails the charge. Over the Yetis try to go for the skinks that are in the middle there. I stand and shoot. I get 1 wound on him, and he misses the charge. And then over here, I think he may have tried... I don't know why he has wounds on him. He must have tried going at something else. Maybe he tried going at the other... I think maybe he tried to crisscross and go at the other spearback, and I hit him on a wound. And then these bruisers tried to go straight past to my spear brick, and everything he had failed every charge. So he just stumbles forward a little bit, which is good. I kind of know Michael's an impatient player, so he likes getting those charges off early. So he tends to make long charges, so I'm not kind of tempting him. Unfortunately, this is not what I can expect to face in the first game at Southern Assault, so I don't know if it's helping me prepare at all, but we'll see. And over here, the Rock tried to charge the spearback. I don't remember if he failed frenzy or if he just declared the charge, but he needed a 9 and failed it, so he stumbled forward a little bit. All right, so my turn 2, and now it's my turn to fail some charges. My spear brick decided to do a slightly long charge into the bruisers, failed that, stumbled forward a couple inches. So then I decided to just go ahead and use the spearback as chaff to keep myself from being on the receiving end of that. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough movement because I still wanted to be able to shoot to get up there and stop him from being able to swing to the right and go after the skinks there in the forest or stuff there. So I'm kind of nervous about that. Taking the place of bait, I decided to put the Stygiosaur up before the Rock. Unfortunately, again, movement is kind of hitting me hard here because I left a big old open space for him to get into the flank of the spearman if he can make a long charge. So we'll see which way he wants to take it. Over here, I don't really move much. I decide to go ahead and move up the other spear back to chaff up the Ogre veterans here to stop them from the easy charge into my skinks, because my hope is once I can get these guys out of the way, the skinks will kind of run around them and be able to go for that scoring point. But other than that, I didn't really move anything in the middle here at all. We open up with shooting because my magic, I was rolling garbage. I was getting like 3-4 dice, and that's it, and it wasn't going well. So I decided to open up on the Yetis in shooting and kill all but one of them. Over here, the spearback does end up getting one of the bruisers killed. And then I want to say it was the skinks that are in the forest just opened up too and ended up killing one more, which was pretty awesome. So Ogre turn 3. Everybody tries to go for the center. So he starts off by throwing Yetis at my skinks there. I stand and shoot and don't do anything. Then he decides that rather than go to the right, he's going to bring the veterans into the left and charges them at the skinks as well, which I can't let that happen. If those veterans get past those skinks and into my my general's unit here, it's pretty much game over. So I decided to flee with them. Then he tries, once they're fled, he declares a charge with both the bruisers and the tribesmen at my general's unit, now that everything's clear there. And pretty much fails everything. Oh no, he did not charge with the tribesmen at the general's unit. He actually tried to get the skinks with them. He was going to try and catch them in the flank, which is, I thought was weird. He's making these like long charges to try to get essentially non-essential targets, in my opinion. But nothing worked, so he's now got this really janky line here, and my spearmen have a choice to make. They either can, with a pretty reasonable charge, either go into the flank of those tribesmen or into the front of the bruisers with his 2 characters in it. Over here, he decided to try for the flank charge against the spearmen and failed it, so he ends up about halfway in the distance. The downside here is I need to move somebody now because he's in just super easy charge of a number of things over here, so I've got to move and start blocking him off like, immediately. Nothing else going on, so we go into Saurian's turn 3. I decide that the bruisers with the characters in it are my best target, so I go ahead and rush straight at them. And that is pretty much that. I don't want to charge anything else. I am going to kind of let him bring what he's going to bring. Except for those mercenaries. I don't want him to bring those at all, so I get right up in their face, so they're going to have to deal with the spearback. Downside, and I wasn't really thinking about this, when they do deal with that spearback, they're going to close the door, and a decent overrun is going to send them right into the front of my skinks, which probably means he's going to take points for both of those units. Over on this area, you see I'm kind of blocking up stuff for here, and I decide to go ahead with a very few dice and hurl Swarm of Insects at the Rock-a-Rock, and I actually do 3 wounds to the Rock-a-Rock, which is just absolutely insane. So maybe my luck will continue and I'll be able to deal with it without getting the stuff over here murdered. We'll have to see. Over here during shooting, I think it's the spearback that ends up killing one of the veterans. And the skinks fire and do a couple of wounds to one of the tribesmen there. And over here, combat goes very well. I am thanking the gods for the hatred that the banner gives my guys. Because it ended up letting me do enough wounds that all of the bruisers were killed before they got to swing. I could not touch his characters, so I didn't try. His characters swung back at me pretty hard, but only managed to kill 6 of the Saurus warriors, so I win. I think this was an auto break for him. He flees, I pursue, and I end up an inch behind him. My thought now is I can either go after these guys, or I can turn around and combat here, or I can go for the scenario on this side. So I'm not really sure where I'm going to go at this point. Ogre turn 4 starts off with the veterans declaring their charge against the spearback. Spearback fires and kills 2 veterans before they get in. But obviously they're going to get in, and that overrun is going to be basically perfect to take them to the skinks. And over here, he decides to change directions. I don't know if his last round was a fake out or he just realized this was too good to pass up. But he sends the bruisers here into my general's unit. He also tried to send the Yeti, but the Yeti completely failed its charge and is still out there in no man's land. This is problematic for me. He's bringing a lot of attacks, and the Temple Guard really aren't all that great at withstanding this kind of high damage stuff. So my only hope is that them being bodyguards will keep them from breaking, and then I can get some stuff into the Ogre's flank here. Over here, he did also charge the Rock-a-Rock into the Stygiosaur. I did not stand and shoot with the breath weapon because I figured I would be better off using it in the combat to cancel out some of the combat res. Because I figured he still is only wounding me on 5 ups because of scarification. So I figure I can outlast that, maybe get a couple of easy wounds off with the breath weapon, and just hold him up another turn. Over here during combat, obviously the poor spearback is no match for these veterans, and he comes in and overruns into the skinks. Now this presents me another problem that I didn't pay attention to. Now that he's closed the door as such, my caimans, which I was going to send into the side of the tribesmen, can't get around them. I'm going to clip their edge. So I have no choice but to charge them into the side of the veterans, because until those Caimans move, I can't get the Taurosaur into the tribesmen. Once they're all moved, I can get everybody in fine, but this is going to be problematic because those skinks are just going to give up boatloads of combat res, and I don't know if the Caimans can make up for it. So I may have painted myself into a very bad position by playing in such a tight formation here. And even though he needed 5s to wound, this Rock just trashed me. I didn't even get to swing. So that's super bad. He overran just a little bit, and is where you see him now. You can also see at the top there, his 2 characters did not rally, so they continued to run. They're up on the hill now. And over here, the fight goes bad. I only managed to kill 1 tribesman. So I did 3 wounds. He did, was that 3, 6, 8 plus the charge. Luckily, I'm stubborn because of the bodyguard rule, so I'm not going to die. But it was not happy. I need to get help into this unit like yesterday, or I'm just absolutely screwed. So I decide I have no real choice but to go ahead and throw the Caimans into the side of the veterans, and throw the Stygiosaur into the side of the, or not Stygiosaur, I'm sorry, the Taurosaur into the side of the tribesmen. I can't help but feel like this is going to go really bad for me. But it's the only chance that my Quaddles unit has. I decided to move the Spearmen because, I mean, they're pretty much not going to get around and get into anything. So I decided to go and send them towards the scenario objective over here. I move up the Skinks, figuring that they can go ahead and pick off that last Yeti and get him points. And I'm kind of just expecting his characters to run off the board. Over here, I bring the spear back so that I can keep chaffing the Rock, because the last thing I need is for it to get over and start messing things up here in the middle. To help me, I ended up during the magic phase finally getting some off and popped the 6-inch scrying bubble. So these ogres have -1 to hit me, which is super awesome. Unfortunately, I'm just out of range for that affecting the other combat. So the Caimans are kind of on their own on this one. Over here during shooting, I pop off a bunch of shots and only inflict 1 wound on the Yeti. And combat in the middle goes very well for me. I do lose some more of the Temple Guard, but we end up doing enough wounds through the impact hits and just the extra damage so that the ogres break, and I run them down, which puts me right in front of the Yeti here, and I'm okay with that. And I was absolutely right. I gave up a boatload of combat res. What is that? 3, 6, 9, 11. 11 Skinks dead and a Caiman taking a wound. But the Caimans came in and just unloaded on the veteran unit. Actually wiped them out to a man, so only thing left there is his general. He actually still ends up winning this by, I think he won this by 1, or we bounced. We might have bounced. That's actually why, because I only did 9 wounds to him. He did 11 to me. Our charges negate. I have a flank and a big flank and a banner. So I must have done less wounds. I think we bounced, actually, is what it ended up coming out to be. But either case, I'm okay. The downside is this Ogre character is almost impossible to kill. I'm it's going to be hard for me to get through. But I'm thinking maybe worst case scenario, I'll choke him up here for a little bit and we'll just kind of throw hands at each other and see what happens. Over here, the ogres get their turn 5, and the Yeti decides to charge the skinks. I stand and shoot and inflict 1 wound on him, and then he gets in. Obviously, he charges the Arakarok into the spear back. And his Shaman and BSB decide to get the hell out of Dodge and run off the table. Go into combat. I can't do anything to the Yeti. The Yeti kills all but 2 of the skinks. And I break, and he does not catch. Obviously, the Rock is going to completely trash the Spearback, and he overruns to within millimeters of the edge of the table. And over here, things go bad. He decides to focus all of his rage at the skinks and annihilates them. I can't touch him because I'm hitting him on like 6s. So I get nothing through. I only lose by a couple because I still have Banner, Flank, and Big Flank. And he did 4 wounds. So I only lost by 1. And then my BSB is way on the other side of the board, and I rolled a 2 6s and a 4 for my leadership. So the Caimans break, he chases them, and does not catch them, but the Caimans run off the board, because I rolled very well for their fleet check as well. So that's a lot of fun. Over here... I do not... This is... I think this is my turn 5. I don't rally with the skinks, and they run a little bit further. Yeah, because this is my turn 5. And I decide here, I do not want or have anything to do with that general, and he's not going to be able to do anything to me either, because he's facing the wrong direction going into his turn 6. So I decide to come over here and hope that some magic and the shooting from the back of the Taurosaur will pick me up some more points here. And Unerring Strike does what nothing else in the army could do and finishes off the Rock. I got a ridiculous number of hits on it. And even with that, it was still barely enough to finish him off. But I was so interested in getting it, it turned into a miscast 15 because I hurled 5 dice at it. That ended up losing me half the wounds on my general, losing me the spell, and killing like half of my remaining Temple Guard. So now he's getting half points for my general and my Temple Guard unit. But luckily, the shooting from the back of the Taurosaur manages to finish off the final wound on the Yeti. And that means all he's got on the board is his general, who is facing the wrong way and can't accomplish anything. And I don't have any spells left or shooting that's really going to hurt him. So we go ahead and call the game at this point. So with the way things went, we did calculate up points. With me getting the scenario and everything, it turned into a 20-0 victory for the Saurian Ancients. I felt pretty confident. It's been a while since I played even with my ogres, so I was kind of forgetting how much pain they can bring. I've got to be real careful about that in the tournament. I also need to be way more careful about my redirecting and my chaffing. I made some mistakes here that cost me some units, and because I wasn't paying attention to my charge lanes. Really, I think if things hadn't been so screwy with me being so clumped up on that right side, I would not necessarily have lost the Caimans, but I was kind of stuck in a point where I had to throw them in to save my general's unit, and even then I only barely did it from the look at how many of them are left after the game's over. So I think I need to make sure that I'm taking my time, slowing down, and being aware of what I'm doing to when I'm trying to protect these units. I definitely feel like I'm going into the first game of the tournament, I'm going to be at a massive disadvantage. This particular player is just flat better than me, and I know it. So I'm definitely going against that. And I personally think the Ogres are just a stronger army than the Saurian Ancients, particularly with the build I've got. So I got a lot of going against me. Uh, my main hope is that I will go in and I will make him fight for every model that he takes off my board. If I must go down, I shall go down in victor or in as harsh as I can. Let's say that. Um, I definitely like my spear block with the hatred. That's a lot of pain. But I am going to have to be very careful about characters in general in the tournament, I think, because I don't really have any fighty characters. I've got support characters. So I've got to be very careful about that, which makes me worry against stuff like Ogre Cons, and Dwarves can have very strong characters, and the Warriors of the Dark Gods. So I've got to keep an eye out on that, too. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know it's been a lot of Saurian Ancient videos lately, and at the tournament we're going to have at least 5 more, maybe more if I can get some games that day when I first get down there. But hopefully you guys have been enjoying them. I certainly think they've helped me get prepared for this tournament. And I hope I do well. And I'm not expecting to place or anything, but I would like to go and not be an embarrassment. That would be, that's kind of my personal target goal. I want, knowing kind of the caliber of players that we're dealing with, and my unfamiliarity at actually playing tournament level where we're worrying about objectives and stuff, I would like to win 2 games out of the 5. That's my target. If I can go 2 and 3, I will consider this a rousing success. So, if you guys have any advice, more than happy for it. Please leave it in the comments. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you really like the video, I do have a Patreon account, which is linked in down below in the video description. If you feel that my channel is worthy of sponsorship, I would certainly appreciate that. And I thank those who have already decided to vote with their wallets and show that they approve of what I'm doing. But I hope that you guys will enjoy what's to come in terms of the tournament and us getting back into the narratives and the narratives that I'm doing in the tournament. And hopefully it'll be a little while before we do just these kind of dry games of me just trying to learn how to play. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.